Did you know that the Roman Navy was almost non-existent at the beginning of the First Punic War? If they hadn't developed it, they would have been defeated by the Carthaginians right from the start. Stay with us until the end to discover how this crucial development changed the course of history and led to Rome's dominance. The Punic Wars were a defining series of conflicts between two powerful civilizations, Rome and Carthage, spanning from 264 BC to 146 BC. These wars were fought in three main phases, known as the First, Second, and Third Punic Wars. Each war tested the endurance, strategy, and resilience of both nations, and their outcomes would shape the future of the ancient world, marking the rise of Rome as the ultimate superpower in the Mediterranean. But to understand how Rome prevailed in this epic struggle, we must start with a simple truth. Rome at the onset of these wars was not a naval power. In fact, they had virtually no navy at all when the First Punic War began in 264 BC. Carthage, on the other hand, was a maritime juggernaut. Their dominance at sea was unquestioned, and they relied on their naval superiority to project power across the Mediterranean. The First Punic War, 264 to 241 BC, Rome's naval breakthrough. The First Punic War erupted over control of Sicily, a strategic island lying between Italy and Carthage. At the start of the war, Carthage's fleet dominated the seas, and it looked like Rome, primarily a land-based power, would struggle to even compete. The Romans had almost no ships of their own, and many doubted whether they could ever challenge Carthaginian control of the Mediterranean. However, in a surprising twist, Rome made a daring decision. Instead of conceding the seas to Carthage, they set about building a fleet from scratch. This was no small feat. Rome was not known for its naval expertise, and the ships they initially built were clumsy, often modeled after wrecked Carthaginian vessels they found washed ashore. But necessity is the mother of invention, and the Romans adapted quickly. They developed a revolutionary naval device known as the corvus, a boarding plank equipped with a spike that allowed Roman soldiers to turn sea battles into something they were good at, hand-to-hand combat. The corvus turned naval engagements into boarding actions, where Rome's disciplined infantry could overcome the Carthaginian sailors, who were more adept at maneuvering ships than fighting close-quarters battles. This invention gave Rome the upper hand in several crucial battles, most notably at Mylae in 260 BC, where they achieved their first significant naval victory. The development of the Roman Navy was a turning point in the First Punic War, and it allowed Rome to secure control of key waterways and cut off Carthaginian supply lines. By the time the war ended in 241 BC, Rome had effectively crippled Carthage's ability to project power across the Mediterranean. Sicily fell under Roman control, marking Rome's first overseas province. But this victory, while decisive, was only the beginning. The Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BC, Hannibal's gamble. The Second Punic War is arguably the most famous of the three, largely due to one man, Hannibal Barca. The Carthaginian general was a brilliant strategist, and he remains one of the most studied military commanders in history. After Rome's victory in the First Punic War, Carthage sought revenge, and Hannibal was the man chosen to lead that effort. Hannibal is best known for his audacious crossing of the Alps with an army that included war elephants, a feat that was almost unimaginable at the time. His objective? To strike at the heart of Rome by invading Italy itself. In 218 BC, Hannibal's forces began their epic march, crossing the Alps in what many thought was a suicide mission. The mountainous terrain and harsh conditions claimed many of his men and animals. But Hannibal's determination never wavered. By the time he reached Italy, he was ready to unleash his fury on the Romans. What followed were a series of crushing defeats for Rome. The Battle of Trebia, the Battle of Lake Trasimene, and most notably, the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC, where Hannibal encircled and annihilated a massive Roman army, remain some of the most stunning military victories in history. At Cannae alone, Hannibal's forces killed or captured up to 70,000 Roman soldiers in a single day. Despite these victories, Hannibal faced a problem. While he could defeat Roman armies, he could not break the will of the Roman people or force a decisive peace. Rome's resilience, along with their ability to raise new armies, kept Hannibal on the defensive, even as he ravaged Italy for over a decade. Meanwhile, Rome, learning from its mistakes, rebuilt its forces and developed new strategies. Under the leadership of generals like Scipio Africanus, Rome took the fight to Carthage itself. In 202 BC, at the Battle of Zama, Scipio decisively defeated Hannibal, ending Carthage's hopes of reclaiming its former glory. Carthage was forced to pay a heavy tribute, and its ability to wage war was severely curtailed. The Third Punic War, 149 to 146 BC, the fall of Carthage. The final chapter of the Punic Wars came a generation later. By the mid-2nd century BC, Carthage had recovered somewhat, but Rome viewed its resurgence with suspicion. Roman leaders, including the influential senator Cato the Elder, famously ended every speech with the words, "Carthago delenda est." Carthage must be destroyed. In 149 BC, Rome initiated the Third Punic War with the sole purpose of wiping Carthage off the map. The war was short and brutal. Roman forces laid siege to the city, and after 3 years of bitter fighting, they breached Carthage's walls in 146 BC. The destruction of Carthage was total. The city was burned to the ground. Its population was either killed or sold into slavery. And that's the story of the Punic Wars, from Rome's humble beginnings to their rise as an unstoppable force. If you want to dive deeper into more battles like this, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.